Oh yes, I'll see you in the rapture. I'll see you in the rapture. I'll see you at the meeting in the air.
This is Evangelist Henry Walker. Welcome to the podcast. Today I want to talk to you about the possibility of the rapture door opening on Tishri 1, September 18, the Feast of Trumpets, and the rapture actually taking place on the last trump, the last day of the Feast of Tabernacles. That great day, the last great day. And what happens in between those two dates. But let's go to Father in prayer first. Father, I thank you for another opportunity to minister to your people, Father. I ask you to use me just the way you want, Father. Let me say only what you want me to say, nothing more and nothing less. Father, help people to open up their spirits and not only receive the word, but study the word for themselves. And Father, we give you all the praise and the honor, Father, in the mighty name of Yeshua, by the blood of Yeshua. Again, based on my opinion from studying the Word and looking at the heavens, the stars, the constellations on October 9th, I want to present to you the excellent possibility on Tishri 1, 9/18 of the first trump sounding from Mount Sinai. And the last trump, the rapture, actually taking place on October 9th, the last day of Tabernacles, that last great day. And so from Tishri 1 to Tishri 10, which is the Day of Atonement, or Yom Kippur, which is on September 27th, the Father's going to give 10 days for people to repent. And on Tishri 10, Day of Atonement, on 9/27, the rapture door will be shut. And anybody's going to go in the rapture, it will be sealed at that time. That's why it's so very important to minister to people and warn them, tell them to watch and pray. And so again, on October 9th, the last great day of the Feast of Tabernacles, the 8th day, new beginning, is when I believe that the rapture could take place. And it's just so important, again, to know that the rapture door is opening on Feast of Trumpets and to try to help people to get through that door. Just like in Acts chapter 16, when Paul and Silas were in prison on the Sabbath, and on Saturday night at midnight, the power of Yahweh moved so tremendously, there was an earthquake and everybody was loosed. And Paul and Silas ministered to the person who guarded the prison, and his whole family got saved. It's important to help people to get through that door. Let's go to the book of Joel. Joel is right before Amos, right after Hosea. Yeah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Joel, right before Amos, as I mentioned. And while you're turning there, I really appreciate your prayers for my wife. She's doing much better. She's home. And pray for her, pray for me, and pray for this other lady, a neighbor that has cancer. Her name is Joy. And I really appreciate your prayers. And also, if you enjoy these podcasts, share, subscribe, hit the like button, and leave me a comment. I'd really appreciate it. And don't forget, my website is at henrywalker.org. There's about 300 written messages. And also, there's 2 free books on the bottom of the written message page. Noon talks about the feast days and the different hours of the day when the Father moves the most. And also, the second book is the Trinity really a mystery? Explaining the Trinity. And it's so strange that on Tishri 1, 9/18, there's a lunar eclipse. I'm talking about the first trump from Mount Sinai on 9/18, Tishri 1, the Feast of Trumpets. And also, there's a lunar eclipse on that day. There's also a solar eclipse at the beginning of Tabernacles on October 2nd, Tishri 15. The Father's talking, and we just got to make sure that we're ready. And the only way to be ready is to surrender everything to the Father, ask the Father to come into your spirit, fill you with His Spirit, mortify the deeds of your flesh, and allow the Father to make us more and more like Yeshua every day, bringing the fruit of the Spirit out of our lives. Love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. The fruit of the Spirit describes Yeshua. So Joel chapter 2, verse 15. Blow the trumpet in Zion. That's the Feast of Trumpets. Sanctify a fast. Another day for the Day of Atonement, or Yom Kippur, is the fast. When Paul was on a boat going to Rome, they hadn't eaten such a period of time, and it was the fast, the Day of Atonement. The fasting before the Day of Atonement and after, it was called the fast. Then called Solemn Assembly. The Solemn Assembly is the last day of the Feast of Tabernacles, that last great day. And so we talked on a prior podcast about the fact that the Father is going to proclaim judgment on Tishri 1, Feast of Trumpets, seal that judgment on Tishri 1, 9/27, Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, and bring that judgment on October 9th, the last great day of Tabernacles. The rapture is going to happen first, in my opinion, and then judgment from Yahweh on Babylon, which in my opinion is the United States. So this shows what he's doing with the rapture. The first trump is going to be on Tishri 1, Feast of Trumpets, as I mentioned, 9/18, in my opinion. And then on the last trump is on October 9th, the last day of the Feast of Tabernacles, which is Tishri 22. In verse 16, gather the people, sanctify the congregation, assemble the elders, gather the children, and those that suck the breast. Let the bridegroom go forth of his chamber, and a bride out of her closet. The Father is announcing the rapture to us. And again, it's an excellent possibility on the last great day of the Feast of Tabernacles. And it is the last trump. There's no more trumpet sounds in this year. And if you go with me to the Gospel of John, John chapter 10, see that door is going to open up on Tishri 1. And we know who that door is. It's Yeshua. He's the only way to the Father. He's the only way to get to heaven is right through that door. And the door is Yeshua. John chapter 10, verse 1. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that entered not by the door into the sheepfold, but climbeth up some other way, the same is a thief and a robber. But he that enters in by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the porter openeth, and the sheep hear his voice, and he calleth his own sheep by name, and leadeth them out. I remember years ago I heard this testimony of a man who had a vision of heaven, and I mean millions and millions of people were there, and Yeshua came out, and his name was Harry. With all those people said, "Hi, Harry." It's just incredible. He knows us by name, and he leads us out. He's leading us to the rapture. He knows what's happening in the world. He knows abortion and things that, unnatural things that are being taught to kids and so forth. He knows what's happening. The rapture is not an escape for us, but it's a release into his presence. We'll have the marriage ceremony at the rapture. Then 7 years later, we'll have the marriage supper. And 7 years with him. And a beautiful honeymoon with him. In verse 4, and when he putteth forth his own sheep, he goeth before them, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice. Pray about what I'm saying. Seek the word and see what the Father says. Things that are happening in the world all seem to be coming to a crescendo. It's important that we watch and pray and to help people get through the door of the rapture. It's that 10-day window from Tishri 1 to Tishri 10, which is 9/18 to 9/27. It's important that we do whatever we can to get people to go through that door. Again, just like Paul and Silas, the jailer, they went to his house and the whole family got saved. He helped them get through that door. And the door is Yeshua. In verse 7, then said Yeshua unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, I am the door of the sheep. There's no other way. All that ever came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. Be very careful who preaches to you, what you let come into your spirit. Because most of mainstream ministries on TV are all about prosperity, but do they ever mention about the soul prospering? It's a wrong emphasis. Because the Father's not going to bless people with physical prosperity unless their soul, mind, will, and emotions can uphold that prosperity. John said, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. And so there's so many people that the enemy is using to rob you of the true word. And you have to make sure that there's nothing in your walk with the Father through Yeshua that's from Constantine. None of his holidays, none of his teaching. He opened up a door for the pagans to come in to his form of Christianity. With these holidays, they're all pagan, Satan-related. Nothing in the Word about them. On my website at henrywalker.org, first written message is, when was Yeshua born? When did he die? When did he rise? Born on Passover, died on Passover. He died on Wednesday at 3 p.m. He rose on Saturday at 3 p.m. on the Sabbath. They didn't come to the tomb until after the Sabbath was over, which is 6 o'clock, and he had already risen. And so it eliminates 3 holidays in that one message: Christmas, Good Friday, and Easter Sunday. Easter is all about the goddess Astar. Make sure that none of those holidays are in your walk with the Father through Yeshua. It's all satanic, and you bring Satan right into your house. There's important things that we need to make sure that's not in our lives so we can be baggage-free going into rapture. He's not going to take us into rapture unless we're baggage-free. But the choice is up to you. And then I have a message on my website about wine as a marker. How many believers drink wine because they believe that Yeshua made water into wine, intoxicating wine? Well, the same Hebrew word and the same Greek word in the Old and the New Testament for wine, intoxicating wine, and grape juice, it's the same word. So you have to read the context, what the Spirit is talking about in the word, to find out the meaning of that word. Whether it's grape juice or intoxicating wine. For instance, little children crying out for wine, that's grape juice. Lot's daughters getting him drunk on wine, that's intoxicating wine. What they used to do is squeeze the grapes, have the juice, boil the juice, make it into a gel, put that gel into a new wineskin so it wouldn't ferment. And then when they wanted to drink, they would squeeze the wineskin and have the gel, and then they had the water. That's exactly what Yeshua did on the wedding feast of Cana. And CNN actually did a study on the effects of wine on a person's brain cells. It's incredible how it affects the brain cells, one glass of wine. But people are using it as a commonplace thing around a table, family table. And it's very dangerous. Even the Father uses the liquor stores to warn people. It's wine, beer, and spirits. You don't need those spirits into your house, especially in your body. You just got to pray about it. Read my message. And see what doctors have to say about one glass of wine. And if you're in a ministry where the pastor, he or she, drinks wine, get out of there, because you don't know what he or she's going to say. Because the wine interferes with what the Father wants to say to a person. But the choice is up to you. I'm just trying to help all of us to get rapture ready and to do what the Father is telling us to do. And when you surrender everything to the Father, He works on us on a daily basis during the week, pointing out things that He wants to take out of our lives. And on the Sabbath, from Friday 6 p.m. to Saturday 6 p.m. is when He does the operation. And then 6 p.m. on Saturday starts the beginning of the week. And there's such a relationship between the Sabbath and the first day of the week or Sunday. The first day of creation on Sunday, the Father separated light from darkness. And so Paul and Silas were in prison in Acts 16 on the Sabbath praising the Father. And on midnight on Saturday night, as I mentioned, there was an earthquake, the power of the Father moved, and everybody was loose from their bonds. So when you rest with the Father on the Sabbath, He gives you more power for the week, starting on Sunday, the first day of the week, which is Saturday at 6 p.m. Remember, Genesis 1, evening and morning were the first day. So the day runs from 6 p.m. to 6 p.m. 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. are the 12 hours of the day that Yeshua talked about. We need to be on His schedule. In verse 9, I am the door. By me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved, and shall go in and out and find pasture. The thief cometh not but to steal and to kill and to destroy. But I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. I'm the good shepherd. The good shepherd gives his life for the sheep, and he did. And verse 22, just to give you some background, when Solomon dedicated the temple, he said, Father, I want your eyes, your name, and your heart to be in the temple. That's in 1 Kings chapter 9, verse 1, 2, and 3. And so the Father said, my name, my eyes, and my heart will always be in the temple. And here, on the Feast of Dedication, or Hanukkah, that's a beautiful feast day to keep. Jewish kids get 8 days of presents on Hanukkah. And see, the enemy set up Christmas to wipe out people celebrating Hanukkah, which is the Feast of Dedication. And here, in verse 22, and it was at Jerusalem, the Feast of Dedication, it was winter. And Yeshua walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. He was keeping the Feast of Dedication, but also he was the fulfillment of what the Father promised Solomon, that his name, his eyes, and his heart will always be in the temple. And his name is Yeshua, Yahshua. The The Father's name is Yahweh. And Yeshua said in John 17, in verse 26, that he's manifested the Father's name to the people. Yeshua is the Father manifested in the flesh. It says in 1 Timothy 3:16 that the Father was manifested in the flesh, seen of angels, preached unto the Gentiles, received in the world, received up into heaven at the ascension. And then the Jews said to Yeshua, show us whether you be the Messiah. They're so ignorant. Here is the promise that the Father made to Solomon being fulfilled right in front of their eyes, that the Father's name, his eyes, and his heart will always be in the temple, as he promised Solomon. And there's one on the throne, Revelation 4 verse 2. The Father that we're going to see throughout eternity is in the face of Yeshua. Only one on the throne. This three-person stuff came from Constantine. He wanted to bring the pagans in. He said, you worship three gods, Egypt and other countries. We'll bring three persons into my form of Christianity, he said. But we'll say it's a mystery, the one. They're three, but the one. That's from paganism. And my book, Is the Trinity Really a Mystery? Shows you that the Trinity is the Father manifesting himself as the Father in his Son, Yeshua, and as the Spirit that makes us more like Yeshua. Ephesians 4:4 says there's only one Spirit. John says the Father is Spirit. It's that simple. The little children were singing Hosanna to Yeshua. That's a term that only applies to the Father. It's important that you get this junk out of your thinking, out of your relationship, out of your vision of what you think the Father looks like. He's in Yeshua. One of the apostles asked Yeshua, show us the Father. He said, haven't I been so long with you? When you see me, you've seen the Father. So here, they didn't understand that Yeshua is the Messiah, the Father manifested in the flesh. He said in verse 27, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. He's the door. There's no other door but him. He is the door of salvation. And he is standing at that rapture door. It's going to be open for a short period of time. So we need to get out there and tell other people that the rapture door is open. Get ready. And it's only going to be open for a short period of time. Short period of time. 10 days. 9:18 to 9:27. Again, verse 27. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And I give unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. My Father, which gave them me, is greater than all, and no man is able to pluck them out of my Father's hand. I and my Father are one. And he took up stones to stone him. In verse 37, but if I do not the works of my Father, believe me not. But if I do, though you believe not me, believe the works, that you may know and believe that the Father is in me and I in him. An analogy that I use is that an iceberg in the ocean. The ocean's in the iceberg's in the ocean. The iceberg is a form to the ocean. The Father was manifested in the flesh, in Yeshua. And right after this, he raises Lazarus from the dead. So he's the door. He's the door to healing, the door to deliverance, and especially the door to the rapture. You go with me to Revelation chapter 3. The door to rapture is opening shortly. You can tell by the picture I used on the podcast. It's opening. We just got to make sure that we're ready. The only way we can be ready is allowing him full access to every part of our lives, to change any part of our lives that he wants to change, and strengthen any part of our lives that he wants to strengthen. Revelation chapter 3, talking about the door. The door is opening. And maybe we need to read Revelation chapter 2 and chapter 3 to see whatever the Father said to those congregations, does it apply to us? Do we have to change? But in Revelation chapter 3, verse 7, and to the angel of the church in Philadelphia write, these things say he that is set apart, he that is true, he that hath the key of David, he that openeth and no man shutteth, and shutteth, and no man openeth. Once he shuts that door on Tishri 10, September 27th, the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, it's shut. Of course, this is my opinion from studying the Word, studying the 7 planets that will be in alignment on October 9th, the last day of Tabernacles, with the sun and the moon, and reading the Word and putting line upon line and precept upon precept. And when the Father stirs me up, I have to release it to whoever wants to listen. I know thy works, in verse 8. Behold, I have set before thee an open door. It's ready to open, and no man can shut it, but thou hast a little strength, and hast kept my word, and hast not denied my name. In verse 8, I know thy works. Behold, I have set before thee an open door, and no man can shut it. For thou hast a little strength, and hast kept my word, and hast not denied my name. In verse 10, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep you from the hour of temptation, the tribulation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. Behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. That's important for us. Hold on to what we have. Be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of Yeshua. And we know that our labor is not in vain, because the door is opening up shortly for a short period of time, the door to the rapture. In verse 21, to him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame and am set down with my Father in his throne. Here, he that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the congregations. In chapter 4, verse 1, and after this I looked, and behold, the door was open in heaven. And the first voice which I heard was as it were of a trumpet talking with me, which said, Come up hither, and I'll show these things which must be hereafter. Picture of the rapture. Come up hither. It's right after he deals with his congregations, uplifts them and corrects them. Verse 2, and immediately I was in the Spirit, and behold, the throne was set in heaven, and one sat upon that throne. So it's important to be ready. Go back on my last two podcasts about proof from the Word and constellations on October 9th, the planets and the sun and the moon, to see where I base my opinion on the rapture happening on October 9th, the last great day of the Feast of Tabernacles, the last trump. In John chapter 20, just go to the Gospel of John chapter 20. John chapter 20, verse 19. The same day at evening, this is Saturday night after he rose. He rose on Saturday at 3 p.m. They came to the tomb again at sometime after 6 p.m. at the end of the Sabbath. The custom was not to go near a dead body on the Sabbath, but if they got there at 3 p.m., they would have seen him rise from the dead. The only ones that saw him rise from the dead were the keepers of the tomb. So the same day at evening, well, actually I back up to verse 1. The first day of the week cometh Mary Magdalene early, when it was yet dark. Dark on the first day of the week is Saturday night, unto the sepulchre, and seeth the stone taken away from the sepulchre. And he had already rose. So in verse 19, then the same day at evening, Saturday night, being the first day of the week, Saturday night, when the doors were shut, so that he could not have risen on Sunday morning. He appeared to his apostles in the upper room on Saturday night. The same day at evening, being the first day of the week, when the doors were shut where the disciples were assembled for fear of the Jews, came Yeshua and stood in the midst and said unto them, Peace be unto you. He walked right through the doors, because he is the door. In verse 24, but Thomas, one of the 12, called Didymus, was not with them when Yeshua came. And he said, Unless I see in his hands the print of the nails, and put my finger into the print of the nails, then I'll believe. In verse 26, and after 8 days, remember, the Feast of Tabernacles is an 8-day feast. On the 8th day, he came to Thomas. And after 8 days again, his disciples were within, and Thomas with them. Then came Yeshua, the doors being shut. Doesn't stop him. In the eastern gate over in Jerusalem, they sealed up that gate, but that's not going to stop him. At the end of the tribulation, he's going to walk right through that eastern gate. And the doors being shut, and stood in the midst, and he said, Peace be unto you. Then he talked to Thomas. And now Thomas believes. Verse 29, Yeshua said unto him, Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Blessed are they that have not seen, and yet have believed. See, the Father in Genesis 1:14 set the sun, the moon, the stars as signs. Again, you can look at my last two podcasts and see the picture on October 9th with the 7 planets lined up and the sun and the moon. And go back over my podcast. Go to the book of Genesis with me. Genesis chapter 6. Talk about Yeshua being the door, the only door to get to heaven, to get to the Father. Yeshua. He's the way, the truth, and the life. And it's so important to abide in him. said, if you abide in me and my words abide in you, you can ask what you will, it shall be given unto you. Abide in him. With all the junk that's happening in the world, draw closer to him. In verse 16, a window shalt thou make to the ark, and a cubit shalt thou finish it above, and the door of the ark shalt thou set in the side thereof. They put that spirit into Yeshua's right side, and the door of the ark was on the right side. With the lower, second, and third stories thou shalt make it. 3 stories but one ark. We're body, soul, and spirit, and we're made in Yeshua's image. We're body, soul, and spirit, but we're one person. The Father manifested himself as the Father in Yeshua, his Son, and as the Spirit that's making us more like his Son. It's 3 manifestations of the Father. So you could have a person who's the president of Ford Motor Company, the vice president of Toyota, and he's married. There's 3 functions of the one person, not 3 individuals. That's exactly what paganism worshiped, 3 gods. Constantine brought it in, saying, well, there's 3, but there's one. It's a mystery. So you can see, the door of the ark was in the right side. Yeshua was stabbed in the right side. The rapture door is ready to open. We want to make sure that we're ready. And the only way to make sure that we're ready, by allowing the Father to make us ready. In Psalm 24, and he told the people, Moses and the others, meet me at the door of the tabernacle. So he wants us to meet him at the door of the rapture, at the first trump from Mount Sinai, and then the last day of the Feast of Tabernacles would be the last trump, and we would go and be with him forever in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. That term twinkling of an eye means as the sun rises. And that day, October 9th, at 6:40 a.m. is when the sun is going to rise in Jerusalem. Be aware, be watchful. I have part 2 of this message next podcast, but as some of you may or may not know, this is a pro-life ministry. We believe that life begins at conception. The Father is the agent of conception. And every podcast I pray for the babies in the womb. Remember, with the babies in the womb, their hearts begin to beat around 18 days, and around 4 months, their hearts are pumping about 25 quarts of blood per day. This is a life in the womb, not a tissue. So I'm going to pray for the babies in the womb. If you want to join with me, Father, I ask you to touch the babies in the womb. Bring them to a full birth, Father. And we give you all the praise and the honor, Father, in the mighty name of Yeshua, by the blood of Yeshua. Also on every podcast I mention, if your flesh or Satan is giving you any thoughts that are contrary to the word, just say out loud, Yeshua, I thank you for the crown of thorns around your head. That was for me. That means my mind is protected by your blood. I only think your thoughts. And give those thoughts to the Father. And give those thoughts to the Father and follow him. So remember till next time, this is Evangelist Henry Walker saying, greater is the Father in you, your daddy, the King of the universe, than anything or anybody in the world. Father, help people to open up their spirits and not only receive the word, but study the word for themselves. And Father, we give you all the praise and the honor, Father, in the mighty name of Yeshua, by the blood of Yeshua. On Tishri 10 is when I believe that the rapture could take place, to help people get through the door of the rapture.
Oh,